Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Brian Statina, Director of Tax Services here at Falk Casson, and today's topic is succession planning. It's a topic that tends to get forgotten about sometimes in the business, and we thought it would be good to just give you some points and things to be talking about and to be thinking about and discussing with us, if you like, about succession planning. And the definition for succession planning is the process for identifying and developing internal people with the potential to fill key business leadership positions in the company, along with planning the future of your business and retirement. So that's the formal definition of succession planning, but there's room for growth there, room to change. But there's a lot of questions you have to ask when you're getting ready to start a succession plan, and the first main question is, what are your intentions for the future? Are there plans in place for retirement? So when we break that question down, we break it down into some specific questions. And the first one is, are your children interested in taking over the business? And that's a very important question, because do you want your children, do they want this to run the business for their career? Are they really willing to do that? And there's avenues. You could gift it to them. You could sell it to them. And there's even, you might have it in your estate plan for them to inherit it. So it's very important to know that when you're doing a succession plan if your children are interested in taking over the business. Do you intend to try to sell maybe to an unrelated party down the road? I can give you an example of an entity where it was a partnership, and the older partners in the firm didn't really have a succession plan in place. And so what happened was, when they got to the point of retirement, their only option was to sell it. And at that time, they never really developed a succession plan, increased their marketability, and they probably didn't get what it was worth. So it's something you want to think about when we'll talk about later about selling to an unrelated party. Where are your retirement funds going to come from? Now, you might have a 401k already set up in your business, and you'll receive distributions on that. You may have you're maybe receiving Social Security when you retire. You may have some personal investments and things, but you can set up your succession plan in your business so that you can develop a retirement income stream coming from that. So there's ways we can develop that. What does your timing look like? How long will you do this? How long do you want to stay with the business? Maybe 5, 10, 15 years is when you're thinking about retirement. Maybe 20. It's never too early to start looking at your succession plan. Are you concerned with your legacy? You own a business, you've done so well, you've become successful. Do you want your just to be gone and done with when you retire? Maybe you want to have a legacy. Maybe you'd like to see your company continue on in the future for many, many years. So you can build things in your succession plan to make sure that happens. We'll talk a little bit about that later. Now, what are some of the roadblocks? There's a lot of roadblocks you could face, and some of them are you prepared for if disaster was to strike? What happens if you're absent? If you got hit by the proverbial bus, you're no longer there. Is there something in place? Do you have the right people in place to continue on these operations? Do you have key employees and management in place to continue through, to have everything in order, so to make sure that the business can continue on and can continue on efficiently and profitably? So if you have the right folks in place, the next thing is, do you have clear policies and procedures for them to follow? And they should be written and formalized. It's an instruction list, essentially. Things in place so that if you're not there, someone can step in, follow the procedures, follow the policies, and follow what the culture is of that company to continue it on. So it's very important to have these types of things in place, because you just never know when something might happen, especially with key employees. And things to consider in your succession plan. There's a lot of things that you got to look about going down the road. We talked about retirement earlier. Do you have a deferred compensation in place? You can set up deferred compensation arrangements in your company so that it can accrue over time as the company is being profitable, as you're making money and drawing salary. Now you can accrue and come up with a deferred comp plan that may pay you out when you retire. You can have some that are for a limited time period. They can be indefinite. Most deferred comp plans are set up for a period of time, maybe 10, 15 years. But you can start that now to build that plan so that it's there to fund you when you retire. Buy-sell agreements and cross-purchase agreements, they're linked. But these are important when you have a business, especially an S corporation or partnership agreement. You need to have a buy-sell agreement. These are binding agreements in place that governs what happens if a co-owner dies or leaves the business. It talks about who can buy, what events trigger a buyout. It's very important because you want to have the right of first refusal when something happens. If it's a two-person partnership and someone dies, you want to be able to say, I have the right to buy it back first before the estate can sell it to a third party. Or if your partner wanted to sell their interest to a third party, you can say no. But if you don't have these binding agreements in place, they can do whatever they want with their ownership interest. Another avenue is an ESOP. It's an employee stock ownership plan. A lot of companies do this, who are large companies who have a lot of employees who think that they want to stay with the company for a long period of time. Maybe you sell them a little bit of stock at a time at a good price, a discounted price. They have the option to buy that stock, own a percentage of ownership in the business, feel a sense of entitlement, feel like they have a say in what goes on. And that helps their morale, helps them develop, and it helps get some stock out of your name into their name. And then when you retire, if you've developed these folks and they own ownership interest, they'll more likely to buy out your ownership interest than to sell it to a third party. And one very important thing that we think about in succession planning is moving assets around. You want to keep your operations separate from your real estate. It's very important. Okay? Now, you may already have this in place, which is great, but you may need to do some structuring, which we can help you with to get that in place. So what I mean is the operations has one set of things that's revenue generating, and then you have your building. It's also somewhat revenue generating as well because it's helping your operations. But let's say you drop the real estate into something that you own personally, like a separate LLC, and then maybe when you retire, the operational company which you sold is now renting the building or the property from you, and it's another income stream for retirement funds. So it's something that we need to think about when we're looking at a succession plan. Now there's life insurance as an issue. Life insurance. Do we have life insurance on yourself, on key employees? Very important. Because life insurance can help you when you have to replace a person. A key employee maybe passed away, and you need funds to come into the company to help, for lost revenue that person was generating, or maybe to help bring someone in and find someone and recruit someone and train that person. It'll help supplement that cost. Because when you lose a key employee, it can be very detrimental to your firm or to your business. So it's very important to have life insurance on your key people, which the company would own. So the insurance policy would come directly to the company. Expansion and marketability. Depending on your intentions, we talked about it before. If you got to sell to an unrelated party down the road, maybe now's the time to start thinking about how marketable your company will be, maybe 10, 15 years down the road, 5 years down the road even. So what you might want to do is look at expansion, increasing your product line, maybe entering into new markets, new processes, different entities. It's important because what your business may be worth today may not be what it's worth 10 years from now. So it's important to look at the expansion and the marketability of your entity now, because it might be something that is more beneficial in the future, and even if your children are buying it, or you're gifting it to them. You want them to have something to protect your legacy and to generate income for them and to give them a career and have a livelihood. So you look at your expansion marketability processes now and see if you can build that into your plan. Now what do? We got to develop a plan. So we've asked all these questions. We've talked about these things that we need to have in place in our succession plan and then for our retirement. So we have to develop a disciplined methodology that results in something more meaningful than just names and boxes on an organizational chart. It's real easy to put together a chart that says owner, then have a line that draws down to CFO, controller, key employees, management, staff. You can put those in place, but really, what's that going to do unless you have some sort of driving force to get your employees to get to the next level, to grow. You want your key people to grow, to achieve the next level, understand their role. You want to have specific job descriptions for these levels so they can have something to look to aspire to. You want to set goals at each level. Realistic goals, measurable goals, goals that can be done to help move the company forward, keep the dial, changing the dial, moving the dial forward so that this company can be successful. So because if you don't develop the people below you, you don't develop a good bench strength. You want to have people on the bench that can come off, just like in baseball. They come off the bench and they fill in when necessary. It's the same concept here. You got to have people on the bench that can fill in when the time's right. So if you're not developing those folks, you're really going to struggle going down the road. Like I told you earlier with the example of the firm who ended up selling out to a third party, which was very disruptive to the community. The business ended up losing a lot of clients and a lot of customers from it. So if you don't develop this bench strength and then you go off and sell, this company may just be obsolete. You may not care, but at the same point, it may not protect your legacy. So it's important to develop your bench strength. It's very important to not be too top-heavy and to have the folks in place so that they know where they belong and measure up to the firm. So how can we help you? What can we do? Well, we can revise, can consult with you and help you get through this process. We have a lot of experienced professionals here, because not only a lot of the things that we're talking about are very, specific, meaningful things, but there's a lot of financial things involved, tax situations we could be developing, estate planning for you and for the key folks in your firm. So what we would do is we would guide you through this process. We would reduce the guesswork that you would have in this process. It's very complicated. We'll quarterback it for you. Make sure that it's all your intentions, all your ideas, what you really want your company to look like when you're gone. We can develop that in one plan and process. Because what we're doing as a business, we always do strategic plans every 3 to 5 years. But in that strategic plan, you're always looking at the succession of the business. So it's important to build this now so that we can incorporate it in our strategic plans that we do go through every 3 to 5 years to develop and grow our company. We want to provide you with a quality valuation. We have business valuators on staff, experts that can measure the business and how much it's worth. So going forward, we can do a formal valuation so that you can market your company for sale, or the sale to your kids, or even if it's gifting, we need to know the value. And we can make it more, we can tell you and give you ways by doing valuations of how you can be more valuable in the future. And we can help build your organizational structure. We talked about having a roadmap to what your folks are going to look like in your business and what their responsibilities are and where they're going to be and what they're going to do. So we can help develop that organizational structure, help you with what these folks need to be doing, what their job descriptions are, what their goals should be in your business. Because not only as accountants and experts in taxation and business consulting, we also understand how businesses are run. So if we can sit down with you and help you through this process, it's just another thing and another service that we can help you with, other than just providing you with a tax return or a financial statement. So it's very important. This succession plan idea is really important to put in place. Now, there's a lot of stuff we talked about here today. It's a lot of different things. I know this is a very short webinar. But we want to sit down with you and get through this in a process so that we can develop the financial metrics for it, develop the ideological metrics for it, so that you can go forward and move forward with your business with the certainty of it's where it's going to be and who's going to take over 10 years from now. So one of my final thoughts is top talent must be managed for the greater good of the enterprise. And developing the right people and intentions will get you to where you want to be. So making sure you put the right people in place, develop them, spend the resources to train them, make them better, is really going to make your succession plan a much easier process for you in the long run. Because you don't want to stress out about this when you're 2-3 years from retirement. You want to know about it now. So in saying that, I really appreciate you guys joining us for this. I know it was a short, brief webinar, but there's a lot of good points here. It's available for you to re-listen to. You can always give me a call, shoot me an email. We can talk about what your plans are, what your intentions are to move forward. But it's good to get this in a formalized process going forward, so everyone knows their intentions, everybody knows where they want to be, and then you can have the good peace of mind to know, and this won't keep you up late at night. So give us a call, let us know. Thanks again. Let me know if you have any questions. Have a good afternoon.